Are you trying to teach your kids how to read, but you're not sure where to start? Well, in today's video, Teach Your Kids to Read 5 Pre-Reader Skills, I will share 5 pre-reading skills that will help you teach your kids to read and minimize the frustration for both you and your child as they are learning to read. These 5 pre-reader skills will help you teach your child to read and prepare them for success as a reader and lifelong learner. So let's get into it. All right, welcome back to our channel. I am Cassandra. I am the mom of 3 little people, Preston, Braxton, and Olivia, ages 6, 3, and 4. And today I'm bringing you a video all about how to teach your kids how to read by developing these 5 pre-reader skills. I currently have a first grader, Preston, who is learning how to read. He's been learning how to read for the past year or two. And since he's been doing remote learning at home, I found myself researching different ways that I can support him as he learns how to read, which prompted me to make this video for you all. So I hope that you find it helpful and you find some tips that help you teach your child how to read at home. So let's get into the very first tip that I have for you. And that is developing a love for reading in your children early on by reading to them. Reading them books at home, at bedtime. There is a research that shows that by the time a child enters kindergarten, they should have read 1,000 books, or they should have had 1,000 books read to them. This develops things like vocabulary and helps children to really appreciate and begin to like reading, which is going to be instrumental to their own development as a reader. And so that might seem really daunting, 1,000 books. You might be thinking, Cassandra, how am I going to do that? But if you start when your child is born and you read to them 1 book a day, let's say at bedtime, by the time that they get to kindergarten, you would have read well over 1,000 books. So even if your child is already 2 or 3, you can absolutely start right now. Maybe read 2 books a day for the next year and really double up on getting to that number of 1,000 books before they get to kindergarten. Another thing that is really helpful is think about using the library. So your local library system, you can get into the habit of going each week and picking out new books for your child to read so that they have different books in their reading routine, and you can rotate different books without having to purchase new books all of the time. I know my kids like to read the same books over and over again, and that's great because after a while they're able to retell the story and make it their own, which is a really important pre-reader skill that we'll get to a little bit later in the video. There are also some great apps that you can use to help your child and read to them. One is called Epics. It has a big library of children's books. You can read along. It can read the story to your child, or your child can practice their reading skills. So that's a great resource that you might consider. Also, if you have a Google Home or Alexa or a virtual assistant, you can ask it to read books to your children. So one of the things that I do is while I'm making dinner, I will ask, we have a Google Home, I will ask it to read a book to the kids while they're sitting quietly in another room listening. I can finish preparing dinner. We're killing 2 birds with 1 stone and really maximizing our time. I actually created a video on how you could use the Google Home or any virtual assistant with your kids. I'll link that in the cards above. All right, so skill number 2 that we want to develop in our children as pre-readers is writing skills. Reading and writing go hand in hand. So it's really important that we are also developing writing skills. You can do this by purchasing a handwriting book at your local dollar store. They often have lots of different varieties. Some might have characters that your child might recognize and make them really excited to practice their writing. You want to have them on a schedule where they're practicing their writing every day, and that might be starting out with just different lines and circles and squiggly lines and dots. Those are really the 4 main types of shapes that you want to start out with. And from there, they'll be able to begin putting together those shapes to make letters. And so there are a lot of great apps to help with this as well. I'm sure you figured it out by now. I always have an app recommendation with each skill. One app that my daughter, who just turned 3, really likes is called Letter School, and it's for tablets. So we use it on the iPad, and she uses her finger and traces over the letters and starts to begin to see how those shapes come together to create letters. And that's a very engaging, interactive way. It also self-corrects. So if you're a Montessori mom or you're into kind of those Montessori strategies with learning for your children, it does self-correct, so that's really helpful to make sure that children are actually learning the particular skill or the particular letter. Teaching your child how to write, putting those letters together is going to be a very important skill, and so that is our second skill. All right, so I am really interested in learning, what resources do you like to use with your children as they are learning to read? Do you have a favorite app? Is there a book that you might recommend? Leave it in the comments below, and we can begin to develop a resource list and kind of share and help each other out as we all go through, trying to teach our kids how to read together. All right, everyone, I lost my footage of me talking about strategy number 3, but it's still really important, although it's rather simple. Strategy number 3 is print awareness, teaching your child simple things such as we read from right to left and top to bottom, making sure they understand which way is the right side up of the book. Print awareness can be developed easily simply through using strategy number 1, which is to read to your child every day. All right, so our fourth pre-reader skill is really quite simple. It is having your child ask and answer questions as well as tell and retell stories. So question asking and inquisition is such an important part to STEM learning. So science, technology, engineering, and math, which we are all about here at PBO and STEM. And so definitely developing these skills early is going to help your child become a critical thinker in ways that allow them to question the world around them and not just be a consumer of information, but to really think critically. And so you can begin this with children as soon as they're able to speak. You can begin asking them questions and having them respond, encouraging them to ask questions about things they're curious about, and then making sure that we are questioning things around us, even if you already know the answer, just teaching them these questioning skills so that they're thinking critically about the world around them. And in terms of telling stories and retelling stories, this is done orally, right? And so as we are going through our day, we might ask our child, what happened at Nana's house today? Or what happened when we went to the grocery store today? And allow them the space to tell their story. For little ones, this might take a little bit longer, and really encourage them to provide more details, ask clarifying questions. So, oh, what do you mean by that? Or what did you see? So that they can continue telling their story and really develop into storytellers. Also, a great way to do this is after you read to your child, you can ask them to tell you what just happened in the story. So sometimes this happens naturally. I know with my daughter, she just turned 3, and she will naturally just want to reread the story to me after I read it to her. She'll say, oh, now it's my turn. And she'll open up the pages and she'll look at the pictures and she'll recount the story as she remembers it. So when we think about reading comprehension, we want to begin developing these skills early. We want to make sure we're laying a strong foundation at home. And so by developing these pre-reading skills, this one in particular, with our children being able to tell and retell stories, ask questions, and think critically, you're really going to set your child up for success as they become a reader and just in learning in general. The fifth pre-reader skill that I want to share with you all is the phonological awareness. So phonological awareness allows children to attend to, discriminate, remember, and manipulate sounds at the sentence, word, syllable, and sound level. So I had to write that down because I wanted to make sure that I shared with you exactly what that meant. But to make it plain, this is being able to understand that words make up a sentence. being able to kind of clap out the syllables in a particular word and hearing those sounds. It's also going to be able to demonstrate the ability to manipulate words. So what do I mean by that? So if we think of the word cat, if we take the C off and add an F, it's now fat. So going over exercises like that with our children so that they can develop these particular skills. Now, if you're thinking, okay, Cassandra, that sounds very technical. I'm not a teacher. You might feel a little overwhelmed, like I don't know how to do that. And so what I'll say to that is don't worry. You can always ask for help. And there are definitely apps that I'm going to recommend that can help with this as well. But these are the things that your child will also begin learning in school. So I really encourage making sure that you are seeking out Head Start programs, preschool programs for your child to really begin learning in a group setting and preparing for school. But it's important for us as parents to know kind of these steps and what our children need so that we can go out and find what they need for them and make sure they have what they need. And sometimes that means asking for help. So it might be as simple as asking your child's school to offer these resources. They have lots of incentives for schools to get group licenses to some of the resources that I recommended. So asking your child's school, hey, can we get a subscription to Epic so that our children can read at home? Maybe bringing this up in PTO meetings so that your child gets the resources that they need. So I don't want you to be intimidated by any of these skills that I've shared with you today. The goal is for you to be knowledgeable so that you can seek out the best ways that your child can develop these skills. And that doesn't mean that you're the person sitting down doing the phonological awareness activities with your child. So a couple of app recommendations that I have for this particular skill are ABC Mouse and Khan Academy, which I believe I mentioned earlier, Teach My Monster How to Read, and Lialo, which is the app that my son uses with his tutor that's really helpful in developing these skills. And so again, I'll link all of the resources below so that you can check them out on your own. Later in our series on how to teach your kids how to read, I will be doing some in-depth reviews, recommendations of some of these particular reading resources. So stay tuned for that. Again, make sure you're subscribed so that you're not missing any of those new videos that we will be sharing during the month of December. Are you subscribed to our channel yet? If not, click the button right over there. It's totally free. You'll get notifications every time we upload a new video. Pulling Brilliance Out in STEM is all about bringing busy parents resources to help you make sure that your child has everything they need to succeed in the 21st century. Watch our latest video.